Hare Ram. Continue reading from Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 4, chapter 26, text 11. Tata Shudrit Parishranto
ततः श्रुतः परिश्रान्तो
Nivrito Graham Eviyam
निवृतो ग्रमे ईवान
Krita Snano Chittaharam
ऋतस्नानो उचित आहार
Sam Samvivesha Gata Klama.
संविवेश गता कलमः.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. After this, the king, very much fatigued, hungry, and thirsty, returned to his royal palace. After returning, he took a bath and had an appropriate dinner. Then he took rest and thus became free from all restlessness. A materialistic person was throughout the whole week very is always asking, where is money? This money. Then at the end of the week, he wants to retire from these activities and go to some secluded place to rest. King Purañjana returned to his home because he was very much fatigued eating animals and frogs. In this way, his conscience came to stop him committing further sinful activities and make him return. In Bhagavad Gita, materialistic persons are described as duskritina, which indicate those who are always engaged in sinful activities. When a person comes to his senses and understands how he is engaging in sinful activities, he returns to his conscience, which is herein figuratively described as the palace. Generally, a materialistic person is infected by the material modes of passion and ignorance. The results of passion and ignorance are lust and greed. In the life of a materialist, activity means working in lust and greed. However, when he comes to his senses, he wants to retire. According to Vedic civilization, such retirement is positively recommended, and this portion of life is called Vanaprastha. Retirement is absolutely necessary for a materialist who wants to become free from the activities of a sinful life. So, the life of each conditioned soul. King Puranjana's coming home, taking a bath, and having an appropriate dinner indicate that a materialistic person must retire from sinful activities and become purified by accepting a spiritual master and hearing from him about the values of life. If one would do this, he would feel completely refreshed, just as one feels after taking a bath. After receiving initiation from a bona fide spiritual master, one must abandon all kinds of sinful activities, namely illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. The word uchitahara used in this verse is very important. Uchita means appropriate. One must eat appropriately and not take after food as hogs take after stew. For a human being, there are eatables described in Bhagavad Gita 17.8 as satvika aha, or food in the mode of goodness. One should not indulge in eating food in the modes of passion and ignorance. This is called uchitahara, or appropriate eating. Uchit ahar, appropriate eating, eating the proper food. One who's always eating meat or drinking liquor, which is eating and drinking in passion and ignorance, one must give these things up so that his real consciousness may be awakened. In this way, one may become peaceful and refreshed. If one is restless or fatigued, one cannot understand the science of God. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.20, Evam prasana manasoho bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam samyukta sangasya jayate. Unless one can become free from the influence of passion and ignorance, he cannot be pacified. And without being pacified, one cannot understand the science of God. King Purañjana's returning home is indicative of man's returning to his original consciousness, known as Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is absolutely necessary for one who has committed a lot of sinful activities, especially killing animals or hunting in the forest. So Narad Muni is telling Prachinabari that Purañjana now, he's retired, he's taken up initiation, like equivalent to taking vanaprastha. He's giving up his sinful activities, and now that's how he's become peaceful. He's taking up Krishna consciousness. Atmanam arhayam chakre
Atmanam arya anchikre
dhupale pasrat adive
rupa alepa satraka
sadva
adhi
alankrit sadva alankritas sarvango
sadhu alamkrita sarvanga
maheshyam adade manam.
mahishyam adade manaha.
After this, King Purañjana decorated his body with suitable ornaments. He also smeared scented sandalwood pulp over his body and put on flower garlands. In this way, he became completely refreshed. After this, he began to search out his queen. When a man comes into good consciousness and accepts a saintly person as a spiritual master, he hears many Vedic instructions in the form of philosophy, stories, narrations about great devotees, and transactions between God and his devotees. In this way, a man becomes refreshed in mind, exactly like a person who smears scented sandalwood pulp all over his body and decorates himself with ornaments. So, good consciousness. When we have good association, then we can develop good consciousness. So, association is so important. Uh, These decorations may be compared to knowledge of religion and the self. Through such knowledge, one becomes detached from materialistic way of life and engages himself in always hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and other Vedic literatures. So we can see, the result when we associate with the saintly person, then we take up spiritual activities, and thus how we are changing our own destiny. Otherwise we won't be able to do it. But by the association of the sadhu, then one takes up hearing and chanting. And then one can get out of the material world, of this world of birth and death. So that's why I said sadhu sangha sarva shastra kahe lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. With just lava matra sadhu sangha. Here Purañjana is doing all materialistic activities. So for sure his destination would not have been so good. But now, by the association of the sadhu, by the association of pure devotee, he is engaging in hearing and chanting. The word sadhu alankrita used in this verse indicates that one must be absorbed in knowledge gathered from the instructions of saintly persons. Just as King Purañjana began to search out his better half, the queen, who is decorated with knowledge and instructions from saintly persons, should try to search out his original consciousness, Krishna consciousness. One cannot return to Krishna consciousness unless he is favored by the instructions of a saintly person. Therefore, Srila Narottam Das Thakur sings, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Chitte Te Kariya Akya. If we want to become saintly persons, or if we want to return to our original Krishna consciousness, we must associate with sadhu, a saintly person, Shastra, authoritative Vedic literature, and Guru, bona fide spiritual master. This is the process. So sadhu, guru, and shastra. Sadhu, guru, and shastra. Tripto Hrishta Sudriptascha
तृप्तो दृष्टसुवृत्त च
Kandarpakrishta Manasa
कन्दर्प आकृष्टमानस
Na Vyachashta Vararoham
न व्रचष्टावरो अरोहाम्
Grihinim Grihamedinim.
गृहिणीं गृहमेधिनीम्.
After taking his dinner and having his thirst and hunger satisfied, King Purañjana felt some joy within his heart. Instead of being elevated to a higher consciousness, he became captivated by Cupid and was moved by a desire to find his wife, who kept him satisfied in his household life. This verse is very significant for those desiring to elevate themselves to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. When a person is initiated by a spiritual master, he changes his habits and does not eat undesirable eatables or engage in the eating of meat, the drinking of liquor, illicit sex, or gambling. Satvika ahar, foodstuffs, in the mode of goodness, are described in the Shastras as wheat, rice, vegetables, fruits, milk, sugar, and milk products. Simple food like rice, dal, chapatis, vegetables, milk, and sugar constitute a balanced diet, but sometimes it is found that an initiated person, in the name of prasad, eats very luxurious foodstuffs. Due to his past sinful life, he becomes attracted by Cupid and eats good food voraciously. It is clearly visible that when a neophyte in Krishna consciousness eats too much, he falls down. Instead of being elevated to pure Krishna consciousness, he becomes attracted by Cupid. The so-called brahmachari becomes agitated by women, and the vanaprasth may again become captivated into having sex with his wife, or he may begin to search out another wife. Due to some sentiment, he may give up his own wife and come into the association of devotees and a spiritual master. But due to his past sinful life, he cannot stay. Instead of being elevated to Krishna consciousness, he falls down, being attracted by Cupid, and takes to another wife for sex enjoyment. The fall of the neophyte devotee from the path of Krishna consciousness down to material life is described in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 by Narad Muni. So, what Narad Muni is telling in this verse is one may take up Krishna consciousness, but due to past conditioning, so one may take up Krishna consciousness, stop all sinful activity, be on the path of Krishna consciousness, but due to past conditioning, somehow or the other, not able to continue, but again take on to the past habits. Tyakva swadharmam charanam bhujam hare Vachan napakvo tapate tato yade Yatra pavabhadramabhut amushyakim Kovarthapto bhajatam swadharmataha. This indicates that although a neophyte devotee may fall down from the path of Krishna consciousness, due to his immaturity, his service to Krishna never goes in vain. However, a person who remains steadfast in his family duty or so-called social or family obligation, but does not take to Krishna consciousness, receives no profit. One who comes to Krishna consciousness must be very cautious and refrain from prohibited activities as defined by Rupa Goswami in his Upadeshamrita. So what Narad Muni is saying, so one may take up Krishna consciousness and again go back to sinful activity. But still, at least he began his Krishna consciousness. That result of that spiritual activity is never lost. at least he began. So in sometime in future, in the same life or in a future life, he will get opportunity to continue in this path. It's better to take up Krishna consciousness in whatever uh, um, position that we are in. Right? Atyahara prayasascha prajalpo niyamagraha jana sangascha loyam cha sadbir bhaktir vinashyati. A neophyte devotee should neither eat too much nor collect more money than necessary. Eating too much or collecting too much is called atyahar. For such atyahar, one must endeavor very much. This is called prayas. So overindulgence. Overindulgence is atyahar, and prayas means over endeavor. Endeavor is needed, indulgence is needed, but to balance. Superficially, one may show himself to be very much faithful to the rules and regulations, but at the same time, not be fixed in the regulative principles. This is called niyamagraha. By mixing with undesirable persons or janasanga, one becomes tainted with lust and greed and falls down from the path of devotional service. So again, association. By saintly association, one takes up hearing and chanting. Again, when one gives up the saintly association and associates with undesirable person, again, then one continues with sinful activity or gives up devotional service. So we can see how important is association. Lord Kapila Dev, in his instructions to Devahuti in Canto 3 of Srimad Bhagavatam, speaks of this, like how one can get attached to Krishna by getting attached to the sadhus, the devotees. Yeah. So the importance of association is always stressed. Antapura striyo prachad
Antapura striyo aprachat
vimana eva vedishat
vimana eva vedishat
apiva kushalam rama
apiva kushalam rama
sheshwarinam yatha pura.
sa ishwarinam yatha pura.
At that time, King Purañjana was a little anxious, and he inquired from the household women, "My dear beautiful women, are you and your mistress all very happy like before or not?" In this verse, the word Vedishat indicates King Prachina Bharhi. When a man becomes refreshed by association with devotees and awakes to Krishna consciousness, he consults the activities of his mind, namely thinking, feeling, and willing, and decides whether he should return to his material activities or stay steady in spiritual consciousness. So, like, Prabhupada is saying that after one comes in association with devotees, then one considers, what should I do further? Should I continue going towards the spiritual path, or should I continue in my material path? The word kushalam refers to that which is auspicious. One can make his home perfectly auspicious when he engages in devotional service to Lord Vishnu. And when one is engaged in activities other than Vishnu Bhakti, or in other words, when one is engaged in material activities, is always filled with anxieties. A sane man should consult his mind, its thinking, feeling, and willing processes, and decide how these processes should be utilized. If one always thinks of Krishna, feels how to serve him, and wills to execute the order of Krishna, it should be known that he has taken good instruction from his intelligence, which is called the mother. So initially we heard that intelligence of the conditioned soul is simply how I can enjoy, what I can do to enjoy more and more. But after association with the sadhu, with the pure devotee, one's intelligence becomes purified. One is able to get good instruction from the intelligence. And one is able to take up Krishna consciousness, thinking of Krishna, feeling how to serve him, and wanting to serve the instructions of Krishna. Instructions of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya says, Yare dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh. That anyone you meet, wherever you go, whoever you meet, you speak to them about Krishna. Bolo Krishna, bhajo Krishna, koro Krishna shiksha. So giving Krishna consciousness to another, to everyone. This is what Krishna wants. So although the king was refreshed, he nonetheless inquired about his wife. Thus he was consulting, thinking and willing how he could return to his steady good consciousness. The mind may suggest that by Vishaya Bhoga or sense enjoyment, one can become happy. But when one becomes advanced in Krishna consciousness, he does not derive happiness from material activities. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita 2.59. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehina rasavarjam rasopi asya param drishtva nivartate. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste is fixed in consciousness. One cannot be unattached to the sense objects unless he finds better engagement in devotional service. Param drishtva nivartate. One can cease from material activities only when one actually engages in devotional service. So by association with the devotee, one can begin devotional service. One can cease material activities and begin devotional service. So initially, for us, it may be very, very difficult to give up material activities, but at least we begin devotional service. We begin hearing and chanting. That's the point. And then gradually, everything will happen. Gradually, the material activities can reduce and spiritual activities can increase. It's a gradual process. न तथैतर्हि रोचन्ते
न तथा इहर्ति रोचन्ते
गृहेषु गृहसम्पदा
गृहेषु गृहसम्पदः
यदि न स्यात् गृहे माता
यदि न स्यात् गृहे माता
पत्नी वा पतिदेवता
पत्नी वा पतिदेवता
व्यङ्गे रथ इव प्राज्ञ
व्यङ्गे रथे इव प्राज्ञा
को नामासितदीनवत्.
को नाम आसीदीनवत्.
King Purañjana said, I do not understand why my household paraphernalia does not attract me as before. I think that if there is neither a mother nor devoted wife at home, the home is like a chariot without wheels. Where is the fool who will sit down on such an unworkable chariot? The great politician Chanakya Pandit said, Mata yasya grihe nasti, bharya cha priyavadini, aranyam tena gantavyam, yatharanyam tatha graham. If a person has neither a mother nor a pleasing wife at home, he should leave home and go to the forest, because for him, there is no difference between the forest and home. The real Mata or mother is devotional service to the Lord. The real Patni or devoted wife is a wife who helps her husband execute religious principles in devotional service. These two things are required for a happy home. So real Mata devotional service. The wife helps the husband husband helps the wife to engage in devotional service. Actually, a woman is supposed to be the energy of the man. Historically, in the background of every great man, there is either a mother or a wife. One's household life is very successful if he has both a good wife and mother. In such a case, everything about household affairs and all the paraphernalia in the house becomes very pleasing. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had both a good mother and pleasing wife, and he was very happy at home. Nonetheless, for the benefit of the whole human race, he took sannyas and left both his mother and wife. In other words, it is essential that one have both a good mother and wife in order to become perfectly happy at home. Otherwise, home life has no meaning. Unless one is religiously guided by intelligence and renders devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his home can never become very pleasing to a saintly person. In other words, if a man has a good mother or a good wife, there is no need of his taking sannyas, that is, unless it is absolutely necessary, as it was for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Prabhupada is pointing out that if the wife is also a devotee, there is no need to take sannyas. Because, like, otherwise, the life was divided, right? Brahmacharya, grihas, vanaprastha, and sannyas. But if the wife is a devotee, husband and wife engage in devotional service together, encourage each other in devotional activities. Lord Chaitanya, he had both a very good mother and a very, very faithful wife, devoted wife. But he left. Why? For our sake. He took sannyas so that he could spread Krishna consciousness all over India. Of course, he could have spread it all over the world, but that he left for Srila Prabhupada to do so. Yeah. So, because some people were offending him, so he thought, oh my God, like I've come to deliver everyone. But if they offend me, how are they going to make spiritual progress? And so he took up sannyas so that he could give mercy to everyone. So for our sake, he took sannyas. Vartate sal lalana
वर्तते साललना
majjantam vyasanar nave
मज्जन्तं व्यसनार्हणे
yama uttarate pragyam
यामाम् उद्धरते प्रज्ञाम्
deepayanti pade pade.
दीपयन्ति पदे पदे.
Kindly let me know the whereabouts of that beautiful woman who always saves me when I'm drowning in the ocean of danger. By giving me good intelligence at every step, she always saves me. There's no difference between a good wife and good intelligence. One who possesses good intelligence can deliberate properly and save himself from many dangerous conditions. In material existence, there is danger at every step. In Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.58, it is said, Padam Padam Yad Vipadam Na Desha. This material world is not actually a place of residence for an intelligent person or a devotee, because here there is danger at every step. Vaikuntha is the real home for the devotee, for there is no anxiety and no danger. We don't even realize it. We are so happy here going about in our daily activities, and we are saying, I'm so happy. I can live here forever. But Bhagavatam is saying, Padam Padam Yat Vipadam Natesha, that this material world is not actually a place of residence for an intelligent person or a devotee. Why? Because there is danger at every step. At any moment, one can leave the body. Any moment, anything can happen. Vaikuntha is the real home for the devotee, for there is no anxiety and no danger. Good intelligence means becoming Krishna conscious. So, spiritual intelligence. Real intelligence is spiritual intelligence. In the Caitaniya Caritamita, it is said, Krishna ye bhaje se bara chatur. Unless one is Krishna conscious, he cannot be called an intelligent person. Bhagavatam says, 11th or 12th canto, 11th canto, that in the age of Kali, those who are intelligent will worship Krishna, who comes in his incarnation in this golden form by the Sankirtan Yajna. So Bhagavatam is saying those who are intelligent in this age of Kali will take up the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Herein we see that King Purañjana was searching after his good wife, who always helped him out of the dangerous situations that always occur in material existence. As already explained, a real wife is Dharma Patni, that is, a woman accepted in marriage by ritualistic ceremony is called Dharma Patni, which signifies that she is accepted in terms of religious principles. Children born of a Dharma Patni inherit the property of the father, but children born of a woman who is not properly married do not inherit the father's property. The word Dharma Patni also refers to a chaste wife. A chaste wife is one who never had any connection with men before her marriage. Once a woman is given the freedom to mingle with all kinds of men in her youth, it is very difficult for her to keep chaste. When butter is brought into the proximity of fire, it melts. The woman is like fire and man is like the butter. But if one gets a chaste wife, accepted through a religious marriage ritual, she can be of great help when one is threatened by the many dangerous situations of life. Actually, such a wife can become the source of all good intelligence. Such a good wife, the family's engagement in the devotional service of the Lord actually makes a home, a grihast ashram, or household dedicated to spiritual cultivation. So, engaging in devotional service. Actually, such a wife can become the source of all good intelligence, Prabhupada writes. So if the wife can take up Krishna consciousness, she can help her husband in Krishna consciousness, and she can make her household Krishna conscious. Rama Ucha. Naranatha na jani ma Dvatpriya yadvyavasyate Bhutale niravastare Shayanam Pasya Shatruhan. All the women address the king, O master of the citizens. We do not know why your dear wife has taken on this sort of existence. O killer of enemies, kindly look. She is lying on the ground without bedding. We cannot understand why she is acting this way. When a person is devoid of devotional service or Vishnu Bhakti, he takes to many sinful activities. King Purañjana left home, neglected his own wife, and engaged himself in killing animals. This is the position of all materialistic men. They do not care for a married chaste wife. They take the wife only as an instrument for sense enjoyment, not as a means for devotional service. To have unrestricted sex life, the karmis work very hard. They have concluded that the best course is to have sex with any woman and simply pay the price for her, as though she were a mercantile commodity. Thus, they engage their energy in working very hard for such material acquisitions. Such materialistic people have lost their good intelligence. They must search out their intelligence within the heart. Person who does not have a chaste wife accepted by religious principles always has a bewildered intelligence. So Prabhupada is pointing out the necessity of getting married here, taking on a good wife, The wife of King Purañjana was lying on the ground because she was neglected by her husband. Actually, the woman must always be protected by her husband. We always speak of the goddess of fortune as being placed on the chest of Narayan. In other words, the wife must remain embraced by her husband. Thus, she becomes beloved and well protected. Just as one saves his money and places it under his own personal protection, one should similarly protect his wife by his own personal supervision. Just as intelligence is always within the heart, so a beloved chaste wife should always have her place on the chest of a good husband. This is the proper relationship between husband and wife. A wife is therefore called Ardhangani, or half of the body. One cannot remain with only one leg, one hand, or only one side of the body. We must have two sides. Similarly, according to nature's way, husband and wife should live together. In the lower species of life among birds and animals, it is seen that by nature's arrangement, the husband and wife live together. It is similarly ideal in human life for the husband and wife to live together. The home should be a place for devotional service. The wife should be chaste and accepted by a ritualistic ceremony. In this way, one can become happy at home. So Prabhupada is again upholding the necessity of the institution of marriage. Narada Vacha Purañjana Swamahishin Niriksya Vadhutambuvi Tatsangon Matita Gyano Vaiklavyam Paramam Yayo. The great sage Narad continued, "My dear King Prachinabhavi, as soon as King Purañjana saw his queen lying on the ground, appearing like a mendicant, he immediately became bewildered." In this verse, the word avadhutam is especially significant, for it refers to a mendicant who does not take care of his body. Since the queen was lying on the ground without bedding and proper dress, King Puranjan became very much aggrieved. In other words, he repented that he had neglected his intelligence and had engaged himself in the forest in killing animals. In other words, when one's good intelligence is separated or neglected, he fully engages in sinful activities. Due to neglecting one's good intelligence or Krishna consciousness, one becomes bewildered and engages in sinful activities. Upon realizing this, a man becomes repentant. So good intelligence is important. By intelligence, one needs to control the mind and then thus control the senses. And the way we can develop good intelligence is by hearing from Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Such repentance is described by Narottam Das Thakur. Hari Hari Vifale Janma Gonai, Manushya Janma Paiya, Radha Krishna Na Bhajiya, Janiya Shunya Vishakhain. Narottam Das Thakur herein says that he repents for having spoiled his human life and knowingly drunk poison. By not being Krishna conscious, one willingly drinks the poison of material life. The purport is that one certainly becomes addicted to sinful activities when he becomes devoid of his good chaste wife, or when he has lost his good sense and does not take to Krishna consciousness. Santavyan shlaksnaya vacha hritayena viduyata preyasya sneha samramba lingam atmani nabhyagam. The king, with a grieved mind, began to speak to his wife with very pleasing words. Although he was filled with regret and tried to pacify her, he could not see any symptom of anger caused by love within the heart of his beloved wife. The king very much regretted having left his queen and having gone to the forest to execute sinful activities. When a person regrets his sinful activities, the abandoning of Krishna consciousness and good intelligence, this path of deliverance from the path of material clutches is open. So regret, when we actually regret what we are doing. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5, Parabhavas tavat abodha jato yavan na jityasta atma tattva. When a person loses his Krishna consciousness and loses interest in self-realization, he must engage in sinful activities. Well, we have to do something or the other, We are always active. So either we are going to take up Krishna consciousness or we are going to take up material activities. All one's activities in a life devoid of Krishna consciousness simply lead to defeat and misuse of one's life. Naturally, one who comes to Krishna consciousness regrets his previous sinful activities in the human form. Only by this process can one be delivered from the clutches of nations or ignorance in materialistic life. Just as we just heard in the previous verse, Prabhupada is mentioning how Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Janiya Shunya Vishakhain, that purposefully I drank the poison, I wasted this human life, I got this great opportunity of human life to take up Krishna consciousness, yet I didn't take up Krishna consciousness, but engaged sinfully. So Narottam Das Thakur is showing us how we can regret and actually take up Krishna consciousness. Regretting that, oh, I've wasted my life, I've wasted my time, I've engaged in so many sinful activities. Now let me take up Krishna consciousness, let me take up hearing and chanting. Anunyanyetha shanake viro naya kovida asparsha pada yugalam aha chotsangalalita. Because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First, he touched her 2 feet, then embraced her nicely, seating her on his lap, and began to speak as follows. One has to awaken his Krishna consciousness by first regretting his past deeds. Just as King Purañjana began to flatter his queen, one should, by deliberate consideration, raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness. To attain such an end, one must touch the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved by self-endeavor. One must therefore approach a self-realized, Krishna-conscious person and touch his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj therefore said in Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 5, Text 32, Nesham matisthavadaru kramam darihin sparshati anartha pagamo yad arthaha mahiya sampadarajo vishekam nishkinchananam navirnitayavat. One cannot come to the precincts of Krishna consciousness unless he touches the dust of the lotus feet of a person who has become a Mahatma, a great devotee. So taking the dust from the lotus feet of a devotee, very, very powerful, can help us begin our Krishna consciousness. This is the beginning of the surrendering process. Lord Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him. And this surrendering process begins when one touches the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva Dharmam Parityagya, just surrender unto me. And how we can surrender unto Krishna? by surrendering unto Krishna's devotee, the pure devotee, the bona fide spiritual master, representative of Krishna, by getting the dust of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. By sincerely rendering service to a bona fide spiritual master, one begins his spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. Touching the lotus feet of a spiritual master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessarily puffed up position in the material world. So taking up the order of the spiritual master, taking up the instruction of the spiritual master, physically taking the dust of the lotus feet of the spiritual master, and also to take up the instruction of the spiritual master. Those who remain in the darkness of material existence due to their falsely prestigious positions, so-called scientists and philosophers, are actually atheists. They do not know the ultimate cause of everything. Although bewildered, they are not ready to surrender themselves to the lotus feet of a person who knows things in their proper perspective. In other words, one cannot arouse Krishna consciousness simply by his own mental speculation. One must surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Only this process will help one. So, not by our own mental speculation, because our mind can make us think anything. But when we surrender, when we accept a pure devotee as the spiritual master, then we can take up Krishna consciousness. Tatvidi pranipatena. Krishna also says in Bhagavad Gita 4:34, Tatvidi pranipatena pariprashnena seva upadekshayanti te jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanam. He says, you search out a spiritual master, you serve him, you surrender to him, serve him, inquire from him submissively, and he shall reveal the truth to you because he has seen the truth. Purañjana uvacha nunam tva akrita punyaste Ritya yesha ishvara shubhe krita khashva atmasat kritva shiksha dandam na yunjate. King Purañjana said, my dear beautiful wife, when a master accepts a servant as his own man, but does not punish him for his offenses, the servant must be considered unfortunate. According to Vedic civilization, domestic animals and servants are treated exactly like one's own children. Animals and children are sometimes punished, not out of vengeance, but out of love. Similarly, a master sometimes punishes his servant, not out of vengeance, but out of love to correct him and bring him to the right point. Sometimes parents will tell the child, hey, don't do like this, don't, like correcting the child. Similarly, the spiritual master also corrects the disciple. And the intention is love. Not to belittle anyone, not to disrespect anyone, but out of love, caring for that person, caring for his well-being. Thus King Purañjana took his punishment dealt by his wife, the queen, as mercy upon him. He considered himself the most obedient servant of the queen. She was angry at him for his sinful activities, namely hunting in the forest and leaving her at home. King Purañjana accepted the punishment as actual love and affection from his wife. In the same way, when a person is punished by the laws of nature, by the will of God, he should not be disturbed. A real devotee thinks in this way. When a devotee is put into an awkward position, he takes it as the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So Krishna sometimes that Krishna will want to correct us also, but that is only because he loves us. When we love somebody, we care for them. When we see them that they are doing something which will make them suffer, we will tell them, hey, don't do this, you're going to suffer. So Bhagavatam 10.14.8, Tate nukampam susamekshamano Bhunjana evatmakritam vipaka Yadvat vapubhir vidadan namaste Jiveta mukti pade sadaya bhak. This verse states that the devotee accepts a reversal of his position in life as a benediction by the Lord and consequently offers the Lord more obeisances and prayers, thinking that the punishment is due to his past misdeeds and that the Lord is punishing him very mildly. This is the attitude of the devotee. The devotee is not fighting with God or condemning God. He's accepting the reversals in life as a benediction by Krishna to increase his hearing chanting, to increase his love for Krishna, to help him give up the material attachment. He's accepting that, okay, whatever I'm suffering is due to my past bad errors, and Krishna is giving me a token punishment. And he takes this opportunity to increase his hearing and chanting. And if he receives uh, some good fortune, he's grateful to Krishna. He thanks Krishna that Krishna, I don't deserve so much, but you are trying to encourage me. That's why you're giving me this. This is how a devotee thinks. The punishment awarded by the state or by God for one's own faults is actually for one's benefit. In the Manu Samhita, it is said that the king should be considered merciful when he condemns a murderer to death, because a murderer, punished in this life, becomes freed from his sinful activity and in the next life takes birth cleared of all sins. If one accepts punishment as a reward dealt by the master, he becomes intelligent enough not to commit the same mistake again. So the capital punishment was now, of course, it's not there. Before it was there. So then this in fact beneficial for us, so that in the next life we don't have to suffer. So devotee takes his reversals in life in that mood that Krishna is kind to me. Krishna is helping me to clear up my sinful reactions. He's giving me a token. Paramo nugraho dando vrityeshu prabhunarpita balo na veda tattanvi bandhu krityam amarshana. My dear slender maiden, when a master chastises his servant, the servant should accept this as great mercy. One who becomes angry must be very foolish not to know that such is the duty of his friend. It is said that when a foolish man is instructed in something very nice, he generally cannot accept it. Indeed, he actually becomes angry. Such anger is compared to the poison of a serpent. For when a serpent is fed milk and bananas, its poison actually increases. Instead of becoming merciful or sober, the serpent increases its poisonous venom when fed nice foodstuffs. Similarly, when a fool is instructed, he does not rectify himself, but actually becomes angry. So, so we should accept the chastisement of Krishna as a mercy, understanding that it is for our benefit, and see how we can learn what we can how we can learn from our reversal to stop doing the same mistake again and again. Sometimes we don't realize what wrong we are doing and we continue doing it. But if we can stop to think and realize, oh, what am I doing wrong? So that I can stop getting into trouble. Let's stop here for today, because then we won't be able to finish this. Thank you so much for listening and enjoying it. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna.